So today is called Tiny Tweaks and Huge Smiles. So it's built about building better habits at work. And these concepts that we're talking about today are sort of all summarized in this new document that just came out a couple months ago. It's on Amazon as a Kindle. I'll drop that in the chat as well for you. It's called 52 Tips. It's a booklet, so it's not really a full book. I'm trying to see if my camera will zoom in on this. You'll see it's small, right? There's 52 tips in here, and that's the approach is to have 13 categories. Um, 13 tips per 4 categories, adds up like a deck of cards. And that gives you different tips on leadership, mindset, resilience, and trust. And we're going to talk about those today and talk about why habit formation is really critical and why little tiny tweaks and little tiny habits actually stack up over time and can have a massive impact on you, your career, your team, whatever it might be. So that link should be in the chat now for you. Oh, sorry, it says drop in chat, but I think you get the idea. And this is me. I live in Bend, Oregon now. I've been living here for 5 years, and I love living here. It's a town of about 115,000 people, and it's just been a great decision for me to move here. It took a while for those relationships and the depth and the contribution and being a recipient of the benefits of my community. But it's really great. When I lived in Colorado, I was the MC for all the events that you could think about, and I've become the MC for all the events here now too. And I love doing that work. I get to do. I'm emceeing the holiday parade this year for the first time, which is kind of a big deal. It's a very nice honor to be asked. I love being asked to do things. It's also hard to say the word asked. So there we go. I'm saying it. But I love where I live, and that's one of the things that we will talk about very, very briefly today is the importance of choice, and that you have choice in front of you, where you live, who you work for, who you work with, who you hang out with, the habits that you make, the activities that you participate in your daily life, and how all of those things impact your happiness is really significant. And so I want you to pay attention to the things that are in front of you that are the choices that you can make. So I have been telling people for pretty close to a decade now that I look like Brad Pitt from a distance. This is not the distance. This resolution on this camera is too good for this. If you think, well, try this. Just squint a little bit. You're like, oh yeah, I could see Brad Pitt. Somebody said to me, Brad Pitt, but like Brad Pitt from Benjamin Button, in like the early part of the movie. That was pretty harmful. You can give me some LOLs if you're having fun out there. I'm going to have some fun. Make fun of myself, that's fine. So most people don't agree with Brad Pitt, but somebody did say, who you remind me of is Jim Carrey. And I was like, oh, Jim Carrey. Like, I do stand-up comedy. I do improv. Kind of a goofball. I like wearing silly costumes and doing fun stuff. But Jim Carrey's done it all, and he's reached the mountaintop. He's got really profound words to share these days about mindfulness and about just like, the goal is the mountaintop, but enjoy the journey to the top of the mountain. Because when you get there, it's not exactly what you think. And then what have you done? So like, enjoy this process of creating with other people, collaborating with other people, working alongside them, whatever that might be. And so I found this photo of Jim Carrey, and I was like, well, if I fluff my hair a little bit, I could probably get there, right? No, I guess not. But and they were like, no, that's not what we mean. Not this version of Jim Carrey. More like that version of Jim Carrey. Fine. For 80s, for the Boys and Girls Club, I'm on the board for the clubs here. And for we did 2 different adult proms. We've done 3 now. The first one was 1980s theme, and I was the MC and DJ, and I dressed up as Jeff Spicoli from Fast Times at Ridgemont High, but I had the body of Jeffrey Lebowski, if you know what I mean. I gotta fix my hair now. And then the next year we did the 90s, and so I dressed as Pet Detective Ace Ventura for that one. It was pretty fun. So I take this work I get to do very seriously, but also with some levity. It's fun, for me to share some humor and to make things a little more approachable, because we talk about hard stuff sometimes, especially the work I do inside of teams. Half of my business is professional speaking, motivational speaking. Do not live in a van down by a river, as Matt Foley did in the Saturday Night Live skit. I did live in an RV down by Tamichi Creek for a while, but that's when I was emceeing at Ibar Ranch for a few summers. Now I have a condo down by a river, which is really lovely. It's the Deschutes River. It's right over there. I really love it. I'll go walk that later today. my little happy place. And so I am a motivational speaker. I had the opportunity to speak in Taiwan this year. I've spoken in the Philippines and also spoken in Thailand. And most of my work is in the US, but it was a really great opportunity to do that work. And the other thing I do is a lot of team buildings. And so this is one of my favorite activities. It's called helium sticks. I also call it conflict poles because these little tent poles that we use create an incredible amount of conflict, and it's a teachable tool. It's really fun. So that's a little introduction to me for those of you that don't know me. And here's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about why habits matter, how they stack up. And then we're going to talk about how habits for you and habits for the people that you work with are also an engagement tool and also can give you free employees. Not really, but you'll see what I mean when I explain it. And then we're going to talk about the importance of human-centered work, by giving people the opportunity to see progress in themselves by using little tiny habits. Where's the image? There it is. That they can make progress. You can make progress. And people are looking for this human-centered work. The workplace is no longer about come in, do your job, don't have feelings about your job, right? It's about connection to purpose and meaning. The word mattering is what we use a lot now. And being really connected to the people around you. It's a wonderful thing for me as someone that loves human happiness and spends a lot of time thinking about it. Work should add to your happiness. Work should add to the pride you feel in the work that you do, the purpose that you live out in every day. It should have pleasure. It should have relationships. It should have trust. Trust is such a basic human need. And that's what I want you to be thinking about, is that work is way more than just work. It can be something really powerful and impactful to you. And I want that for you. So how do we do that? Well, we do that through some small tips about mindset, resilience, leadership, and trust. And, towards the end, I'm going to try to help you build what I call a sticky habit. The idea of having a habit is that it changes the behavior that you're doing now, so you do something different. And I'm going to try to make sure we leave some time at the end for you all to think and actively work through some things and ask questions. So I'll go a little bit faster. If you have questions about anything, feel free to drop them in the chat. I will come back to them. No problem. The big question I want to ask you, though, is through this process of habit building, how can you become the leader that people talk about 10 years from now? Now, when I talk about the leader people talk about 10 years from now, this is a leader that people talk about. Well, it's probably 20 years old movie now, right? This is a Bomberger. I don't even remember his name, from Office Space, which is an incredible documentary. I know it's not a documentary. It's pretty darn funny of a movie, and it hits pretty accurately on some things, right? About motivation, lack of motivation, toxicity in the workplace, relationships, And the inverse of this is what I want you to think about, is what would it be like to be the leader that people talk about, the leader that people say, that was the person that impacted my career. That was the person that saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. That was the person that led the team, and we did incredible things together. We did challenging things together. It was really fun, even though it was really hard. That's what I want you to pay attention to, because I think that's the beautiful stuff that can happen at work when things are dialed in, and you get to lead that. Even if you're not technically a leader, you still get to lead yourself, and that can have a ripple effect. Simon Sinek I just saw a video from him that I don't think I'd seen before. He talks about these magic teams. If you can get 15 to 18% of your people on your team to be these magic teams that are high performing, high functioning, cohesive, trusting, well-led teams, that can have a ripple effect, because those people that are really high performing and doing things well together, working collaboratively, working cohesively, they get cherry picked, they get stolen, they get moved to other teams because they want other teams to behave that way. And you can have this ripple effect within an organization. Today, I want to just give you what I will call a bit of fluency. And most of us can speak a language other than English with some capability. I can speak a little bit of Spanish, but I'm not fluent in it. But I'm fluent in the stuff that we're going to talk about today. I have some expertise in it. But I want to give you some access to language around these things about leadership, trust, resilience, habits, all these things. Because I want you to have moments of awareness, and then I want you to have moments where you take a different action. The idea is about doing this better. So the idea is about what Richard Leiter, he's an expert in purpose, talks about. It's about this ability to grow and give. Grow more so you can give more, have more impact in this world. Hopefully that's something that you're focused on. I know I'm focused on it. And what we're going to play with is the framework that comes from James Clear. He's the author of Atomic Habits. If you haven't read the book, I think it's an okay book. I think the techniques are really good. I didn't need to read the whole book to get the idea, to understand and appreciate and believe in the approach he's taking. And the science of positive psychology and leadership and neuroscience really backs up what he's talking about. And it's called Atomic Habits because it's about tiny little habits that all stack up and they add up together. He uses the word stacking because they stack on each other. They build up on top of each other over time. And if you're into newsletters, I get about, well, God, I don't even know, 15 or 20 newsletters. But his is one that, like, every week when it comes out every Thursday. It is profound. Like, what is in his newsletter, and they are tiny because they're just like his book, Atomic, right? But the nuggets that come out of his stuff, it's just really fantastic. It's one I recommend signing up for, totally free. Here's the one that came out this week, right? I'm going to read these off because it's just good for me to hear them. Running 1 mile has more in common with running a marathon than sitting at home. Okay. Investing $100 has more in common with being a millionaire than being broke. Mm-hmm. Writing one sentence has more in common with writing a book than never writing one. Okay. I'm in the middle of writing a book right now. I just need to start each day, right? And then I just keep going, and that all stacks up. And then every race starts with one step. Every fortune starts with a small deposit. Every book begins as a sentence. It's not about where you are now, but where do you want to go? And how do the habits that you choose right now, how do they serve you in the direction that you want to go in the future? So at the end, doing nothing builds nothing. Put yourself in the path of doing something better. Start small, but make sure you start. Okay, that's really simple. I love that stuff, right? And he also said this came out of I think this week or previous week's newsletter. When determining the size or complexity of a habit, say, hey, what can I stick to even on my worst day? And then start there. Master the art of showing up and then advance. So this is about consistency. We know from the science of positive psychology that this process of neuroplasticity, which is the process of reshaping your mind, reshaping your thought patterns, it takes time, it takes consistency. If you can reinforce that with positive emotion, consistency with emotion, being like, I'm trying this new thing and I'm excited to be doing it. I'm going to keep trying that. That's good. Now, if we go backwards in time, there's this great quote that's out there that excellence then is not an act, but it's a habit, and we are what we repeatedly do. Okay? And it's attributed to Aristotle. Aristotle didn't say it. It was a quote that came from inspiration from Aristotle by the author Will Durant of this book. So that's great. It's just about, like, well, what's excellence for me? What's the best version of me showing up at? How do I just do that consistently? Okay. So that's about you. Now, if we talk about, those of you that are in teams and thinking about what it would be like to have a team of people that are high functioning, why would that matter? Is it really that significant? It is. First of all, how many people out there can say, I have too many employees and I don't have enough work for me or my team? Anybody raising their hand on that one? I didn't think so. How about this one? I have more money in my budget that I can spend, and I really should give money back. Anybody? No. Okay. So through this process of engagement, we can find free employees. Okay. And here's what I mean by that. Research is pretty clear about this. If we have people that are have low engagement in their work, just kind of not really working as hard as they could. I don't mean burning people out. I just mean inspired, intrinsically motivated, internally motivated versus externally, which means you have to yell at them or put them on a performance improvement plan. You're losing about 17% of their engagement. Absenteeism, people taking extra days off because they're tired, they're burned out, they don't care about their work. It's more than just the days they would take off for being sick or going on vacation. Third one is quiet quitting. So this is people that are showing up and just not really doing their work and not really looking for another job while they're working, mailing it in kind of thing. So if you add all those together, you're losing about 44% of the effectiveness of your team. And so if you think about this, you're getting effectively 56% of the potential to turn this into like a real number. If you have 10 employees and they're effectively working at 56% of their potential, then you're losing essentially 4 people from that team. You're really just not getting the full level of effort that people could give you, or in a given week, that's 176 hours of lost work. It's a big deal, and so how do you create these little magic pockets? How do you light these people up? And, this quote really jumped out to me about, you get the best efforts from people by lighting a fire beneath them, not lighting a fire beneath them. That's extrinsic motivation. You're going to get fired, but building a fire within them. And I want you to think about kind of how three of these things come together. Um, I like Venn diagrams. So we're going to use a Venn diagram here in a moment. I found this Venn diagram and I thought it was pretty funny. People who like Venn diagrams, people who draw circles around on the coffee cups. I've got a coffee cup here and I spilled it this morning, so I should have drawn a circle around it. Well, anyway, it's about focusing on the individual in front of you. I was just down in Yosemite 2 weeks ago, trying to start a fire. Super damp wood, super damp kindling. I was having a hard time getting the fire going. And if you have a fire in front of you and you're just like not focused on where you want to put your attention in the form of like trying to stoke the fire, you're just kind of going like this. That doesn't do much, right? You kind of focus it towards the fire. And this technique, you can kind of see this gentleman's fingers are kind of pinched together to form a little diamond. But by doing that, you're focusing the air and you can focus your energy towards the ember, okay? and towards the specific area that you want to put that attention. And, if we were to take that metaphor and turn it into our workplace, being like, hey, if you're just walking around saying, hey, good job, hey, nice work, good job, great. But you're not being very specific and you're not being attentive to the individual in front of you, then are you really getting the ability to stoke those embers, that individual human? And so the science is pretty clear about like giving people a chance to feel like they belong, that they have support, that they matter, that they're connected to the people around them, that they have ability to see their unique contribution to the whole, to the unit, to the team, to the department, to the overall organization, to the community you serve, to the clients that you serve, whatever it might be. Okay, it's really important, and this is where these value adds can come in from work. Do you have a connection to your purpose? Do you have a connection to the meaning of the work that you do, to the value that you bring to the world in the work you do as an individual? Okay. And then do you see progress? Do you see growth in yourself year over year? If you're only showing people the progress or the mistakes they made once a year during an annual review, kind of missing an opportunity to really show people these micro moments of growth that they've been making over time. So, I want you to think about that and thinking about what, if you can understand that the person in front of you, if you lead more than about 7 people, it's really hard to get very personal with those people and understand who they are, what they're inspired by, what they're really good at, what they're not great at. It doesn't have to be about all perfection, right? But all of those things come together into helping you support that individual person and be able to flame, to ignite their fire. And it takes time, it takes energy. Individuals are incredibly complicated people, and that complexity can be good or bad, right? I mean, it can be really challenging, it can be really hard. It's really hard to give people the unique attention they need and also hold them accountable to consistent standards across everybody. So I get that. I get that it can be really hard to do. So let's bring this conversation though back to you and about where you are. And I'm gonna pop over into my PowerPoint and just paste something in real quick from the survey results. So bear with me for a second as I do that. But I want to get an idea of like who you are and what's going well for you, and then hopefully that'll turn into something that we can play with today in the form of a habit. And I think my screen is sharing it right now. Am I doing good? I'm doing good. So this is the survey we put up in the beginning. The score went from 0 to 5 on this one. And there's a couple of questions per each of the 4 categories in this book: mindset, leadership, resilience, and trust. And so in the mindset category, we've got some 3s and some 2s. And in the trust category, we've got some 4s, good. And also a 2. That's, okay. Yeah. I'm looking at the purple one, that's pretty low. And then leadership, we're looking at yellow and green. Okay, those are solid. We got some 4s are fine, right? 3.5s are fine. If you got 2s and 1s, we got problems. And then resilience, it's your ability to bounce back. We just did a webinar on that yesterday. Actually, I've done a few programs on that. If you're interested, pay attention for future stuff. I can send you some videos too. And that final one, in the worst of times, I'm at my best. Some people will rely on me. 3.4, I'll take that one. Okay. So what I want you to hold on to is, when you took that survey, like what was the highest one, what was the lowest one? I'm not going to tell you today that you have to focus on the lowest one. That is the science of positive psychology. There's a theory out there called broaden and build theory that tells us very clearly that working on something that you want to work on, not necessarily something that's your lowest, is actually a good thing. And that if you work on something that you're excited to work on, that you can actually continue to improve on that thing over time. And you'll have more success, and because you're excited about it, you don't get stuck in a negative mindset. And then if you try something new and you have success with it, something that you are interested in and curious about, kind of it broadens and builds the things available to you to provide you with positive feelings and experiences. And so that's all great stuff. What I'm going to drop into the chat right now is a workbook for today for you to play with. So just keep an eye on what was low for you or what was high for you. It's a little sampler book. We're going to come back to that in just a little bit. You don't have to print it out. Just having it available electronically is fine. All right, so I've been talking about this little booklet. Let's dive into it a little bit. Okay. First, the first group of the first cluster of these tips is about mindset. Okay, is about how do you approach the world. Your thoughts are a big part of that. So how do you keep a resilient mind? How do you keep a positive mind, even when things get challenging? Right. I mean, that's true leadership in my mind, a facet of true leadership. And here's a nugget from the nerds. These are all in one of my other books called The Little Book of Workplace Happiness, also available at Amazon. It turns out our brains are actually wired to perform better when we're in a positive state. The quickest version of this, negative part of our brain, fight or flight, is back here. It's our limbic system, our reptilian brain. When we are triggered, we were fearful, if we're worried about things, we don't trust people around us. It triggers this part of our brain. And when this part of our brain is turned on, it's stealing energy from the good part of our brain up here. This is your supercomputer. This is fight or flight. Okay. Fight or flight has a purpose. Fight or flight is important. It keeps us alive. It kept our ancestors alive. We have inherited this negativity bias towards the world from ancestral wiring from decades and decades ago. No, 70,000 years ago, a long time ago. But when our brains are in a positive state, we are 31% more productive because we're not stealing energy. We just focus on the problem. We don't have to worry about the person in front of us. We worry about solving the problem with the person in front of us. Like, you trust me, I trust you. Can I say what needs to be said without worrying about hurting your feelings or harming you? Yes, because you get me and I get you. We're trying to solve the same problem. Both have good intentions. That's trust. We won't spend too much time on trust today. Well, we'll spend time on it right now, but we're not going to dive deep on that one today. But a positive mindset is a powerful mind. Keep that in mind. Okay. Number 2 is about trust, and so it's not built in grand gestures. Okay. I want you to think about a bucket, and in a bucket, if I were to use a little tiny bucket, this is my bucket. It's a glass. Is between two people are a bucket, and that bucket can be full of water or not full of water, and the water is trust. Okay. We want to quickly build trust with people because trust is a speed builder. Okay. And actually, Stephen Covey says this so well. It's human motivation. It brings out the best in people. It takes time and patience. And we train people on the competencies of their job, the technical needs of their job, but we don't train them on the competencies of trust. We don't train people on how to build buckets between people that are trust-filled buckets. And what I mean by that is, if I have a bucket between you and me, and you've been watching my behavior, you've been watching my actions, and Ken Blanchard talks about this, A, B, C, D. Do you have ability to do your job well? Do you do it consistently? Okay. Are you believable in the words that you say and the actions that you take? Are you caring and connected to the people around you? Doesn't mean you can't do hard things with people. Doesn't mean you roll over on people, but do you care about the implications of the things that you do? Changes that you might make. And then D, are you dependable? How do we train people to do that? And this bucket between us is essentially just, we fill it with little tiny drops by A, B, C, D. You're showing me that you're able. You're showing me that you're believable. Drops in the bucket, drops in the bucket. Okay. They add up. Excuse me. When we do something that breaks trust, we spill the bucket. We knock the bucket over. We could spill all of the water out of the bucket. We spill a little bit of the water. Sometimes the people that you don't trust, they knock the bucket over, they stomp all over the bucket and they break it. And you're like, there's no way I'm ever going to build trust with that person again because they broke the bucket. So that's the metaphor I like to use with people. When we train people on trust, it's a really fun thing to do. including what Jason was laughing at, the conflict polls. Because if you have good trust within people, then you can have good conflict. You can have direct conversations, open and honest conversations. And there's speed to that. There's efficiency to doing those things well. It takes time. There are tools to build those things up with people. That's what we do in a lot of our workplace culture trainings. Tip number 3 of the category is about leadership. Yes, hustle, lead with humor. Humor is a great leadership tool. When used appropriately. Not everybody has humor available to them. Some people think they're funny and they're not. And some people think they're funnier than me and they're not, because I'm amazing and humble. And but this vulnerability in leadership is really important. I think that we used to think that leaders knew all the answers, and the way I say it is I think good leaders don't have to know the answer. If they do, great. Their job is to find the best answer. And that can mean vulnerability in that I don't know how to do this. Somebody else knows how to do this. Awesome. That's great. I can lean on, I'm tapping into that expertise because we need that. Okay. It's been said that good leaders are, the best people are leaders that lift people up. Darth Vader had a leadership style for sure. And he did lift people up, like in this case, then he put them down, rather, not gently. But that's something to work on, and thinking about growing into becoming that leader that people remember 10 years from now. And they talk about me like, man, that was the most powerful team I was ever part of. How do I recreate that in this new team? What were the characteristics there? Tip 4 is about resilience. And so it's about bouncing higher, not just back. Okay. And it's about, bending and not breaking. So think about the term bouncing back. How are you unflappable in the moment? And what I mean by that is, if we were to have a little mental fitness where we do some, mental reps on things, one of the first things is just emotional regulation. When I was working with a group this week, I talked about being in Japan, showing up for my flight in Tokyo at the wrong airport. The other airport's an hour and 40 minutes away. It all worked out because I'm broadcasting to you live from Bend, Oregon. But I had to figure it out, and emotional regulation is the thing. If you hijack yourself because you're fear-based, that's this thing back here. It shuts down your IQ. You're actually dumber when you're in fight or flight mode. Versus being in a place of calm, cool collectedness. That's also great leadership, to be like when everybody else's hair is on fire and you're just like, yeah, dude, we got this. Like, everyone sit down, calm down. Let's solve this together. I mean, that's leadership, right? And and having self-compassion when you're trying new things, you're going to make mistakes. That's fine, And then, being optimistic. Optimism has 2 parts. I believe that, that I can solve a challenge, make things better, and I can learn from challenges. And the second part of that, though, is, and I know what actions I need to take, right? There's some agency attached to that. And then efficacy. Do you have, what abilities do you have? What have you learned through lived experience? We build resilience through lived experience. We also build resilience through introspection and learning about ourselves and building new skills that help us solve these problems. Some of that is just like having been around the sun more times than other people. You've just experienced more. But how do you tap into these characteristics? And then the other one is cognitive agility. We play a fun game around this. We match 16 squares in groups of 4, getting people to move through and find optimal solutions. This thing up here is always trying to find optimal solutions, but you can't be emotionally hijacked to do that. Okay. So, as Rosie the Riveter says, tough times don't last, tough people do, right? So how do you push through that? Okay. All right. So that's a quick introduction to this. The thing I want to bring back to you is about choice, because I'm going to ask you to make a choice about something here in just a moment. And I want you to think about the thing that you'd like to be working on, the thing you're curious about, the thing you'd be energized to try, the thing you've been wanting to try, like some curiosity, some energy, some positivity, like, oh, I want to try that, versus I really need to work on that, right? That second part is harder to work on. The human brain loves choice. These books were from when I was a kid, and these books are about choice. There's multiple stories in these books. You would read a few pages of the book, and then it would give you a choice and say, hey, on page 8, you can follow the robot with the laser gun into the cargo area, or you can choose not to follow the robot and turn him into security, whatever that thing would be. Okay, yeah. Bye, Jason. It was good seeing you. And choice is huge. And so I want you to choose something that's important for you and valuable for you. Okay. So in the chat, there should be a PDF in there. I'm going to drop it back in one more time, just so it's like towards the bottom of the chat here. Is a PDF, and in that PDF, it has one choice or one tip from this book. Now, remember the book. I think it's $4.40 on Amazon for a Kindle version of this. There's 52 tips in here. I'm just sharing 4. I'm just giving you a sampler for those. But I want you to think about what was your lowest category, what was your highest category. We're talking about leadership, wellness, trust, or mindset. And then pick something to read those and be like, oh, this is the one that I think I would like to work on. Okay. All right. Grab it. And I'm going to sit here quietly with you while you're working on it. Oh, I see a new face in there. Hello, Layla Adelman. How are you? That's a Ben local. And if someone has someone to share, I think I have the ability to turn you on manually to allow you to talk or allow you to talk with video. Just let me know. I'd be happy for you to do that if you have questions, because here I am with you right now. Ready to get a copy of it? Excuse me. The one I'm working on is actually the first one in there. Well, it's the first one under mindset. Adopt a mindset that believes your best days are still ahead and that you have the power to create them intentionally every single day. Training your brain to focus on possibilities rather than problems enhances your emotional flexibility, boosts creative confidence, keeps your energy high even when obstacles seem relentless and overwhelming. I don't feel overwhelming. I feel a lot of there's a lot of things for me to get done every day. I'm a very small team. It's just me and some virtual assistant support. So how do I prioritize all the things that need to get done? And I'm in the middle of building out a new program that I'm really excited about. That flame image that I showed you before, it's going to take a lot of work, but it's going to be really, really cool and impactful. So I know I have to just hold to that, and I also am supporting myself with really great experts and people that know how to do this really well. Excuse me. And so I just know I need to be persistent. I know I need to be consistent. I know I need to have a good mindset about it. I know that my first solution for some things aren't going to be perfect. That's okay. It works for me. What came forward for you? What's floating around in your mind? And if you want to come off mute, just let me know. Just drop a little something in the chat, and I'd be happy to unmute you or give you some video access. Is there anybody out there? It's me singing Pink Floyd. I don't think you really want me singing, so it's better if some of you lean into the chat and do some things. Otherwise, the singing's bad. It's just bad. All right, we got a chat here. Thank you. Christina says, my highest score is mindset. I'd like to work on leadership. Okay, good. Did that leadership one resonate with you, Christina? The one that was in the PDF? I'll give people time to. The leadership one in the book is number 27. That's what those numbers are. Lead by drawing out hidden potential inside instead of trying to mold everyone to your own image, right? That's like, what are you good at? What's different for me? That's great. Empowering people to expand their strengths, nurtures creativity, fuels innovation across the team, and builds workplace where individuality and personal mastery are seen as assets rather than messy liabilities. Okay. Oh, okay. Okay. Marking on a second career, leading in a new way. Great. Time to reset. That's great. There's, I'm selling you my Kindle book for $4.40. I'm not trying to make a massive profit here, but there's 13 other ones in there that are, well, so there's 13 totals. There's 12 other ones in there if you want to get a copy of that. Okay. But you have to have, I too like the leadership tips. I'm reading what you said, Anne. I'm trying to do this with employees, but you have to also have the mindset and employee trust. Yeah. And that trust thing, come back to that bucket, like don't rush trust. There's activities you can do that really build trust. I do one called the Heroes activity with teams that I work with. And it's such a cool activity, getting people to understand, like to honor who their heroes are. What is it about their heroes that really matters to them, like really is something that they could embody from that leader, something they want to take from that leader and bring into themselves. One of my heroes is, he just passed away, July of this year. His name is Dr. James Doty. He was at Stanford. He was the executive director for the Stanford Center for Compassion and Altruism Research Education. He's written a couple of different books. I'm going to mention the book later. It's a book that I love, called Mind Magic. It's about manifestation. And it's not manifestation like woo-woo, light some sage kind of thing. That stuff may work. He says science isn't positive about that. But there's a difference between manifesting and by training your brain to pay attention to the signals that you want your brain to pay attention to. He uses the metaphor of a filing cabinet, because that's what your brain is. Tons of filing cabinets up here. There's so much data coming in that we can't even absorb all of the data that's coming in. So our brain has to filter data. And by turning on the filtering mechanism, he calls it a bloodhound. You're training your bloodhound to pick up the scent of the things that you want in this world. And then your brain starts paying attention for that. And you have these like magic moments, mind magic moments of being like, oh, wait, that's the answer to that. Oh, wait, what did you just say? Oh, I want to talk to you about that. You and I share something in common. Okay. And I'll say this again probably, but connection to serving other people makes habits stick, makes manifestation work, because the human brain is way more likely to wire habits that are about service, about what you can do for other people, how you can support other people. It doesn't mean you have to be a victim and just, take care of other people without taking care of yourself. Okay. All right, so I'm going to look in the chat here. Trust and resilience tied for the highest. Mindset was lowest. Okay. Yeah, Karen, you don't have to choose mindset as the thing to work on. If you want to choose something in trust and resilience, work on that habit for a few weeks. Great. Okay. Cool. These are great. Thank you for sharing those in the chat with me. We'll have more time for questions as we go, because we've still got plenty of time left. So you have homework. The idea here is that you have to start applying these things. You can have this fluency about some of these things, these categories, and you can have some awareness about these things, but like you have to start building habits around them. You have to do them consistently. And that consistently builds up towards being this leader that people remember, 10 years from now. And it's just a nice way to think about who is that person. 10 years out is far enough to grow into that person. And 10 years out is also enough time to say, oh, I've got some time to work towards that. And that could be really big and different from who I am now. Okay. Now you might be remembered for a lot of things. Like people, remember me a lot because I'm an incredible baker. I lived in Hawaii for a while, so I brought back some of my favorite recipes from Hawaii, including my Spam donuts. Nobody really likes those. This is really gross, isn't it? I can't believe this is an actual recipe. The 70s, maybe the 60s, or the 50s, who knows? Anyway, so, come back to this idea of, in yourself. There's two parts. This is about you and it's about the people you work with. How do you give them a sense of belonging? Make sure they understand how they contribute, how can you support them? How do they matter? How can they give support? How can they receive support? How are they connected to the people around them? How are they connected to the work they do? How are they connected to the outcomes of the work that gets done? How do they uniquely contribute? And then how do you get people connected to purpose? Does your organization have a mission statement, a purpose statement? Does your organization have give backs to the community? Does your work make life better for other people? Sometimes we just do work, and I, you can pick an industry that's just like, we don't really have a mission statement. We just build widgets. All right, well, what's the widget do? Does it make life better for people? Great, part of that purpose can just be having quality relationships with the people around you. Part of your purpose could be, well, this job allows me to do great things with my family and support my community as well. That's great too, and understanding that we're going to have a presentation on purpose in December. So if you're interested in that, I'll share the link for you in a moment. And then progress, the idea behind these habits is making small little steps that stack up over time, and you just become that person. And it's through this consistency of action and effort that you can do that. And again, through feeling positive about it. If your brain associates good emotions or negative emotions very strongly, it locks in new habits and beliefs and thoughts. Okay. So focus on the positive as you're trying this new thing. Be like, I'm doing this because I want to be the leader people will remember in 10 years. That's pretty positive. That's cool. And Howard Thurman, he's a theologian, and he was also a social justice proponent. They said, don't ask what the world needs. That's what makes you come alive, and go do that, because that's what the world needs, is people who've come alive. So I want you to light the fire under yourself. I want you to light the fire for other people if you're in a leadership role. And you do that through small actions. In 1 month, what have you worked on? How could you do that? And here's habit formation process that I want to just explore with you briefly. Is from James Clear. He says, create a scenario, whatever the thing is that you want to be working on, an action that you're going to do in that scenario, and then an identity. And I'll break this down for you in a moment. And James Doty says this very clearly, that if it's attached to serving other people and helping other people, your brain actually locks in on those. The bloodhound gets activated around those things. Okay. And I guess I didn't have my slide in here. I'm going to go back real quick, but I just want to say the identity here is a value. It's service. It's something. Why it has to be deeply rooted in you. It doesn't have to be. The habits stick more if they are rooted in a value of who you want to be. Because I want to be a person that lifts other people up and shows them their own path to greatness. That's a cool identity. Okay. The action you're going to take is the habit. And then the scenario is really like a prompt, right? Like, hey, when I go into a team meeting, I recognize that what I want to do with the people that I'm in that meeting with is bring out the best in them in those moments. Okay. That's the scenario that you have in mind. There's the action embedded in that as well. Okay. So I'm going to give you something else to work on. If resilience is something you really want to play with, I've been spending a lot of time talking to people about resilience right now, because the world is changing really fast, and our workplaces are changing faster than they've ever changed before. And so I want to give you this freebie. If you'll just give me some feedback, there's a couple types of feedback that are valuable for me. What did you like about today? What would you have liked that we spent more time on? Constructive feedback is fine. Great. And the other thing that I would love for you is, like, I love doing this work. I'm a professional speaker. So if you have conferences you go to, associations that you're part of, meetings that you're part of, whatever those things are, conferences. I was just at a conference this week for transit professionals. I would love that. And if you have a workplace, I can help you with the workplace challenges too, about making this easier to get those like magic teams, those 15 to 18 to 20% of your team, like crushing it. And that has an infectious impact on your team in a good way. Okay. And if you give me that feedback, I'll put this back up in a minute. But if you give me that feedback, I'm going to give you this freebie. It's a 2-page document on dealing with complex challenges. They're called VUCA challenges. And then on the back of it, it talks about resilience. Okay. And in December, we have another training. This one's going to be on purpose. I really like this one. It's a really nice thing to do in December, as we're thinking about like disconnecting from work a little bit, reconnecting with family, friends, community, hopefully for you all. This is a free one just like this. We're going to play with purpose in this cool thing called ikigai, which is the Japanese term that means kind of like your reason for living. Why do you get out of bed? And we're going to play with some aspects of these quadrants that you'll see here on this Venn diagram. Yes, I love Venn diagrams. I can't help it. And you can get the full version of this as a Kindle by grabbing that link. I'll drop it in the chat in just a moment. And I just want you to think about, this, Abraham Maslow, most of us know him, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, is he never put them in a hierarchy, by the way. Other people did that. Other people made the triangle. But he basically says, like, if you're trying something new, they can go back towards safety or forward towards growth. And growth has to be chosen again and again, and you have to overcome fear again and again. Because when we try new things, it can make us uncomfortable. It can give us anxiety. That's okay. That's natural and normal for those things to happen. but you just have to be like, yeah, cool. That's what's going to happen in these moments, and I got this. I am moving forward with these new habits. And you can do, whatever it is that you're dreaming about doing, because people accomplish incredible things that most of us never would have thought could get done. And focus on one big thing, one habit at a time, master that habit, and then move on to something else. And you can do it, because whatever that big thing is you're dreaming about, I know you can, because if Nicolas Cage can keep getting work, well, you can do anything. So that's the end of the presentation. I'll ask you some questions here about some stuff, and I'm going to drop some stuff in the chat. I am sorry, these don't come through as hyperlinks, but what I'm going to do in every case, but if you'd like to, thank you for the round of applause. This is my email address. It's also on the bottom of the PDF if you grabbed a copy of that. And there's a December webinar coming up, my newest publication. That's the link for that. And if you want to talk about your workplace, if you're having challenges, please let me know, and I'd love for you to connect with me on LinkedIn. Stay connected there. And in the QR code that's on your screen, like if you don't sign up for my email list, then you will not continue to hear from me. So that's your way to just say, I send like one email a month, maybe two. It's not that big of a deal. I'm not going to harass you. But we have these monthly webinars coming up. I'll be doing another one in January for a different organization, for an organization that's focused on parole and probation. I love doing webinars. So if you're part of an association and you're like, hey, they need some fun content, some good content, some impactful content, we need to pick me up, let me know. I just did one yesterday for the Special Districts Association of Oregon, which is all these different unique districts like fire and school and sand and water, education districts in the state. And that was a really fun little partnership. And so I'm happy to partner with you all. And with that, we've got, let's see, it's 11:51. This thing doesn't end until noon my time. And so I'm happy to answer any questions you have. And again, I can bring you off of mute or whatever that is. You're very welcome, Karen. I saw your comment in the chat. My pleasure. I hope this is helpful. But if you have questions right now, I'm happy to talk about them. We've got a small group on here, so I think we got time to do this. I want to ask you a couple questions. One of the programs, I told you I was building out this new program. I'm calling it the Champions Model. Champions of something, champions of culture. Still working on the terminology for it. But that champions piece, there will be an element of me going into workplaces and working with teams, training people up. Remember that competency of trust, like working on that, like giving people tools to understand how to be trustworthy, and then how trustworthiness leads to the ability to have open, honest, direct conversations and even conflict. That's the kind of trainings that I go into workplaces and do. We do stuff on leadership and wellness programs as well. I'm curious, if I were to offer a program that was monthly, where we would sit down like this, and it would be way more interactive. It would be more of a mastermind program. Oh, you can't get the sampler. Yeah, Clara, just drop your email address in the, I have your email address. I'll send it to you. Sorry, multitasking. If we were to sit down monthly, we were to meet for 3 hours virtually like this, it would be a mastermind program where we'd focus on workplace challenges. And I would say, hey, here's a topic we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about trust. We're going to talk about purpose. Each month it would be different. 12 months in the year, I have about 18 different programs I can run. We can talk about negativity, talk about wellness, we can talk about burnout, talk about leadership, whatever. Just give me a quick, yes or no on this. I'm trying to think about how to frame this question. Is it something you'd be interested in, and is it something your workplace would pay for? Like if it was, I don't know, $2,500 for the year, don't hold me to that number. You'd get to meet monthly. You get to come for 3 hours. You'd have some supported programs in here, one-on-one coaching. Well, it'd be mostly group coaching in there. Is that the kind of thing that you would be interested in? And I think you kind of have to do like, yes, comma, yes. Yes, I'd be interested in being part of a cohort, probably 15, 20 people. And then, yes, I think my workplace would pay this like $2,500 fee. Does that jump out? Clara, I'm going to thank you, Christina, for being honest. And Jenny, add the second part there. And I don't know who you work for, Jenny. Christina, I think I understand who you work for. Yeah, it's not budgeted for. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it'd be something that maybe over time you'd have to, get people to budget for those things. It could be rolled into a program. Like what I mean by that is like I could come in and do some work with the team. And then as part of the cost of me coming in to work with your team, somebody from your team or some buddies from your team could be part of this cohort that would stay with me virtually and continue to work on things and explore where you're having challenges, where other people have learned from this process, introduce new content, new ideas. I also want to give you stuff to do like in your workplace to continue to help you just kind of create this positive environment. That sounds a little bit fluffy, but it's not what I mean. You plant the seed? Yeah, great. Christina, that's great. Cool. Well, yeah, I don't have much more detail to share about that now, but thank you. Oh, good. And I might reach out to you about that because I don't know LBCC and I don't know who your employer is either. So let me stop sharing this. And then Clara, I owe you a follow-up email with that PDF. Clara, PDF is sent to you. And then I'm going to come back to the chat and just see what you had to say. Yeah. Albany and Concord, Lynn Benton Community College. Okay, cool, great. Yeah. Okay. Yep. No problem, Karen. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. And yeah, and why don't we? I'll look up. Focus more training. Okay, cool. Yeah, trainer through LBCC. Oh, you use an internal. You use a trainer from that. Okay, from them. I don't know that group. And maybe we should just have a quick email exchange here. Would you mind shooting me an email, or I probably have your email address in here somewhere. Cool. Well, any other questions, comments? I am here to work on whatever you want to work on. Thank you, Anna. I'll shoot you an email. And Anna, I'm curious. I'm just going to write you a quick email, but what do you actually do? Because I think you're Albany, Oregon. It sounds like you're with the federal, with the city, and you use training through the community college. Okay. Oh, you're a city planner. Okay, great. Yeah. I'll send you some information just like on my catalog of programs so you can kind of see all the stuff I do. And then, yeah, just if you won't mind connecting me with the right person, I'm always happy to have a conversation with that, whoever those people are. Hi, Layla. Goodbye, Layla. Layla lives here in Bend. I'll probably wind up running into her. Yeah, you can send human resources. Great, thank you. Cool. All right. Anybody else have questions? Oh, somebody gave me the peace. Thanks. All these fun little emojis we can have. I haven't even looked to see what's in there. I was just a few. Oh, there's a ton in here. Oh, fun. Oh, y'all missed the opportunity to have fun with all that stuff. Cool. Well, thank you. And I'll send you an email if anybody else has questions. My email is at the bottom of that PDF that I shared with you, Anthony@anthonypaponi.com, because I'm a raging narcissist. I'm not. I don't think I am. Who knows? Raging narcissists probably don't think that either. Anyway, thanks for being here. Hopefully some of you found some value, have a new tip that you want to work on, and I'd love to hear how that went for you. And if you need more resources, let me know. Always happy to share. Bye for now.